Heya folks, it's Arlyeon, and welcome back to another episode of Crit Hit Reviews. This episode is going to be focusing on Across the Moment, a narrative-heavy adventure game by developer Andrei Romanov. But is it a moment in gaming you'll want to revisit time and time again, or will you be counting down the seconds until it ends? Well, first off, if you're hoping for any sort of controller support in this game, or customizable controls, you're going to be sadly disappointed. Thankfully, Across the Moment is a free-roam point-and-click adventure, and therefore has some mostly straightforward controls, which makes the inability to fine-tune them less painful than it could have been. Like some point-and-clicks, progression can be a bit slow at times, in part due to a lack of explicit goals provided. Instead, the game provides hints as to how to advance via a number of scattered notes, which not only serve as lore, but also have a snapshot of an area or item pertaining to a puzzle. Whilst it can be helpful, some of your playtime is apt to be devoted to blindly fumbling about, performing some light platforming and scouring the game's various rooms for items that you can click, collect, and combine in an effort to solve some puzzles. Though, if you enjoy searching about, there's also additional lore-related collectibles to be found which simply serve to flesh out the story, helping to break the monotony. Unfortunately, one of the puzzle/central gameplay aspects the game introduces is a crafting section of sorts, alongside some fairly tedious resource gathering. See, you need to craft certain items to progress in the game, but crafting requires not only that you find all the tools needed to utilize the crafting bench, but to also harvest the materials needed to craft. Specifically, materials which you can only carry a very limited amount of, forcing an arbitrary amount of backtracking to the hub area of the game so that you can progress further in whatever area you were exploring. Which is made even more monotonous since materials collected aren't even immediately usable, but require processing first. The mask feature that you end up unlocking via crafting is at least somewhat neat, as it provides an overly chatty item you can plant down on a location and swap places with at the press of a button, allowing for some neat problem solving. Or rather, it would if it wasn't for the fact that if you place it in the wrong location, it can completely derail a playthrough by virtue of locking up your controls on a black screen. This is especially problematic since you're only given one save slot and the game autosaves, meaning that's entirely possible for the game to automatically overwrite your save and put you in a position where you simply cannot progress anymore, since there actually isn't a means of resetting where the teleportation mask is, even when you return back to the hub area. Bottom line, there's a number of issues here, and I ended up feeling that the gameplay was getting in my way, more than it was providing something enjoyable or challenging. Now, when it comes to narrative, Across the Moment isn't exactly cut and dry, as the game kicks off with a black screen and the sound of an automobile accident. Next thing you know, you're in a mostly monochromatic world, trying to piece together whether you're dead, in a coma, or maybe just dropped too many hits of acid. In essence, the narrative is divided between trying to figure out what the place is and what to do next. Certain collectibles providing details about the protagonist and his melancholy musings, whilst the others focus more on the world itself. The lore is also provided in the form of a series of running soliloquies by the narrator, with a philosophical bent that seems to seesaw between maudlin and misanthropic. Whilst interesting at times, reading the lore entries or listening to the spoken dialogue could be a bit problematic due to the myriad of linguistic quirks that came with this particular localization. It ends up feeling clunky and even unnatural at times, and I overall felt like the game was essentially being edgy and melodramatic. That said, despite the grief I give to the gameplay and the story, I can't really find fault with its visuals. The game has a distinctly interesting, mostly monochromatic presentation style, the likes of which works well with the more gloomy aspects of the game itself. Likewise, what sporadic bits of color exist is generally well placed, either serving to highlight something aesthetically, or the occasional object you need to take heed of for clicky purposes. Design-wise, things have a surreal aspect to them which I also found appealing and well done. Now, when it comes to the game's audio, I have some mixed feelings. On one hand, its musical presentation is fairly appealing and pairs up well with both the sense of desolation and the thematic content of the dialogue. I honestly really appreciated it on the sidetrack side of things, but I found the spoken dialogue to be grating at times. Not only due to the clumsy way the dialogue came out, but the general tone of it as well. Whilst the game does try to tackle themes such as wastefulness, self-destructive behaviors, and grief, I found the overall dialogue just didn't manage to evoke a meaningful response from me. I didn't feel discomfort due to subject matter, but instead felt like I was eavesdropping on someone as they read off a live journal post they made when they were 17. At the end of the day, I'm gonna say that I walked in this game feeling that there was potential, and I retain that belief, but it doesn't save the game from what it is. Marred by clunky gameplay and mechanics which seem to unnecessarily pad the game experience with busy work, terrible localization, and elements which completely break the game for the player with a save system which irreversibly locks the player into a situation that can't be rectified without starting over, I can only deem this a failure, and a fairly poor one at that. Whilst there is potential, until these issues are addressed, the game isn't particularly worth investigating, because it falls flat in regards to both the gameplay and narrative. Anyways, as ever, thanks for watching till the end. If you have comments, critiques, or the like, leave a message below, and if you enjoyed this, like, subscribe for more quality content from us, click the bell button to be notified, and share this with people you think might be interested. Lastly, if you'd enjoy being a part of a community devoted to indie gaming, click the link to our Discord server to meet other like-minded gamers. Anyways, I'll catch you next time.